Hey, Lowdown. So I stumbled across your channel and I was watching your video, the part 2 questions that an atheist can't answer. And I was really impressed by what you were saying in the video, and I wanted to give you a quick response because there's a few issues I had here. The first being that I think it's not totally intellectually honest to say that atheists can't answer this question. Atheists aren't trying to answer that question. I'm sure you probably know, because everyone says it. Atheism is not a unifying principle which creates any coherent group. There's a broad spectrum of ideologies among different atheists. All it is just a lack of belief in God. But there are some people who call themselves atheists who believe in a natural God, a deist God. They don't necessarily call it a God, but that unifying principle of the universe. I've heard people who call themselves atheists who believe that, to all the way to the anti-theists who believe that if there is a God, that God must be evil, and the fact that they are corrupting and manipulating our universe and us. They hope there isn't a God. So there's a really broad scope of atheists, and to lump them all together and say that they're trying to unite in any way and provide answers, that's not intellectually honest. I think what you want to say is that scientists can't provide an answer. Specifically, cosmologists don't have an answer to where the universe originated from. I myself have a background in geology and physics, so I didn't focus necessarily on cosmological physical world in my studies, but I do have a fairly good understanding of the oscillating universe principle you were talking about. And I think where you where it seems like you dropped off in your research, which it was quite impressive what you did talk about, was the fact that science cannot observe what happened before the universe started expanding, because time started, in theory, when the universe started expanding, or our observable, measurable amount of time. Before that, we don't necessarily know what it is, but we can start to think about ideas. We can philosophize about ideas of what happened before then, but that's not science because it's not observable data. Now, some of the ideas of what was before the universe, and you kept repeating that matter, is eternal and matter has to exist in, and that really died back when Einstein kind of came out with his the E equals MC squared. Matter is not necessarily eternal. Matter can be destroyed. Matter can be phased out of the state of matter and into a state of energy. And that's exactly what happens every time we have a nuclear reaction. The sun is fusion. That's nuclear. That is mass being turned into energy. And every nuclear power plant is based off the fact that we are converting matter to energy. And that matter and energy cannot be destroyed. That's really what you're talking about there. But matter itself can be destroyed, quote unquote, but really it's just a phase change. And so most of the theories, in the oscillating universe concept revolve around the fact that energy, existed in some state, and then as the universe expanded, that energy was condensed or somehow turned into mass. I'll link to an article about the creation of mass in a vacuum. That when you have a vacuum, on a quantum level, mass is created. That protons are created from, so protons are from quarks, and that the mass of the individual quarks doesn't add up to be the mass of the proton, but that somehow that space between the quarks, the smallest particles we can really get down to is a vacuum, and somehow that vacuum creates mass. That's not something I've really looked a lot into, but that is a theory there that before the expansion started in the universe, that there is this vacuum, and that this energy coalesced into quarks, which created the mass that as the universe expanded, and the universe is continuing to expand on the edges where there's this energy, this 0 point energy that exists out there, and as the universe expands, it's just converting that energy into matter. Of course, we don't understand how that works. There's a lot of things in science we don't understand how they work, and we call those things forces. The force of gravity, the force of strong nuclear forces, weak nuclear forces, electromagnetic forces. We call them forces because while we can observe them and measure them and predict them, we don't know what they are, and we don't know where they come from. And so to say that science has an answer to all those things is not true. We don't have an answer, but we're looking for answers. And where I have the biggest problem with religious creationists who insist that God created it or God did it is that that's not an answer. It's a statement. But it's not giving me the understanding that I require to in my life. I want to understand why something's happening. If you tell me that God did it, I want to know why God did it and how God did it. And to say that God is just all powerful and He can do it, that just opens up a whole new can of questions. And so that's why religion cannot provide the answers that science is attempting to, because science isn't able to observe what God did. And unless you can say, here is observable proof of what God did, you're never going to satisfy the questions of scientists. You're never going to satisfy the questions of atheists, because that's what atheists are doing. They're looking for answers to questions. I want to know. And it's not the fact that, I know that science at this time does not have the answers I want, but that doesn't mean that science won't have the answers at some point, or they won't give me a better understanding of what is going on. And so that's really why science and religion are going to continue to be separate issues, because science does not provide the philosophical answers that religion provides, the philosophical and moral answers, and religion on the other hand can't provide the answers that science provides. And so I appreciate your attempt to work science in there, but as is with most religious people I've encountered, the questions they have, the doubts they have on the validity of evolution and Big Bang, really it stems from the fact of a lack of understanding and a lack of willingness to put in that effort, which you by far seem to have put in a lot more effort than 99.9% of the religious people I've ever encountered. Very few people are able to even talk in general about the oscillating universe concept, but I still don't think that just because you don't understand it or you don't have the answer in front of you doesn't mean that you have to revert back to, well, something had to start it and God must have done it because that's the only thing I can think of. I think that's intellectually dishonest, and I hope you continue to research more into it. Like I said, I'll put the link to the quantum particles in a vacuum, and you can take a look over that and let me know what you think. Great, thanks.